In a world that is ever changing, it isn't uncommon to hear about new technology that is going to turn our world upside down. As the technology becomes more and more common, the talk dies down and we resume our normal lives. But what if the technology truly does change the world we live in? Look around you. Every object surrounding you has probably been made on a big factory floor somewhere far from where you live. Let's take the simple ballpoint pen. You may not realize, but there are many different components to this small object. The body of the pen consists of at least 4 pieces of injection molded plastic. These must be assembled simultaneously with the inside pieces. The inside of the pen has even more components. There are thousands of little brass discs that must be softened and put into a compression chamber, which then, oh, forget it. Manufacturing a ballpoint pen is not the most exciting thing in the world. But the point is that this process is very complex, even for the simple ballpoint pen. But what if this process could be simplified? Simplified to 1 or 2 steps. What if we could print a ballpoint pen? Forget injection molding, extrusion molding. Let's take a CAD drawing of a pen with all of its components, send it to a printer, and within an hour, have it physically lying on the bed of the printer. Well, guess what? This has been done before. Even if you haven't heard the term additive manufacturing, you might have heard about 3D printing. Yes, that's right, I did say 3D printing. This is not a new technology, but in the recent years, it has been receiving a lot of hype. Back in the early 1980s, a man named Chuck Hull invented the first 3D printer. This printer would be the foundation for a revolution that wouldn't occur for several decades. However, this printer was very different from our modern-day printers. That first printer, as well as most of the printers since then, have been developed for engineers. The software, the materials, and the printers themselves were created for rapid prototyping. This technology has been gaining recognition worldwide and has been infiltrating many different industries, one of them being the fashion industry. The fashion industry is one of the largest industries in the world. It is comprised of 2 different sectors, the mass markets and the world of haute couture. The mass markets make up most of the fashion industry, whereas haute couture consists of less than 1%. You might be sitting there wondering, what the heck is haute couture? Well, let me tell you. It is a French word that translates to high sewing. This word is strictly regulated by the Chambre syndicale, whose job is to enforce standards for any garment that bears the name haute couture. These garments are created in an atelier and are custom made for each client by experienced seamstresses. They are tailored perfectly to each client using the most complex techniques as well as the best fabrics. From the design to the construction, this process can take up to 4 months. Thus, it will come as no surprise that these garments can range from $40,000 to millions of dollars. So where does 3D printing and fashion connect? Well, many people have heard the hype surrounding this new technology, and they believe that 3D printing will infiltrate the mass markets all the way to the consumer. Several fashion designers who have worked with this technology postulate that household consumers will be printing their own garments inside of their own home. This seems great, but is it realistic? Not at all. Take a simple college sweatshirt. There's more than just one fabric. There are elastic bands and drawstrings and even zippers sometimes. How is a household consumer to design this on their own computer and print it in a household printer, which is no larger than a toaster oven? There are other designers that see the local shop owning a 3D printer. Consumers can go there, have their bodies scanned, and then have their garment printed to their exact measurements. The problem with this is that 3D printing is not efficient or as cheap as our current manufacturing methods in the fashion industry. The first reason is due to manufacturing inefficiencies. Mass manufacturing for the fashion industry is extremely fast. 3D printing is not the slowest manufacturing process, but it certainly is not as fast as our current machines on the factory floor. From the printing to the cooling process of this technology, it can take up to several hours or even a day. Another problem with 3D printing is the variety of materials. Since 3D printing was created for engineers, the materials available consist of metals, plastics, and even some rubbers. Have you seen any of these materials in the local department store recently? Neither have I. Unless chainmail becomes the next trend, these materials are definitely not optimal for the mass markets. However, there are some companies developing fabric-like materials. Let me say that one more time. Fabric-like, not fabric. Although these materials can flow like fabric, they do not have other characteristics like softness, warmth, or even that obnoxious itchiness that wool has. Even if scientists could create fabric-like materials with these characteristics, there's no point in reinventing the blue jean. Not only is the research process expensive, but the materials themselves will be exorbitantly expensive. I don't know about you, but every time I go shopping for jeans, I find a pair I like, look down at the price tag, and what would you know? I gotta go home and empty my piggy bank again. Why should we start printing jeans that are going to be 6 times the price? The clothing in the mass markets are already serving their purpose. There is no need to fix something that isn't broken. The costs of 3D printing are not comparable to our current manufacturing methods. From the materials, to the time, to the quality of the print, the price continues to increase. Carl Bass, president of Autodesk Incorporated, says that there's little difference between the raw commodity and the material fed into the printer, and yet it can cost 100 times higher than normal. Not only does the price of materials increase exponentially, but so does time. Time can increase by a factor of 3 compared to the traditional manufacturing methods. The last driving force of price is quality. Quality of prints differ depending on the printer you are using. There are 2 options. To achieve the same quality, you must use a more expensive printer. Or, to achieve the same price, you must compromise on the quality. So even though 3D printing technology can produce the same products as the factory floors, logistically, it cannot compete with our current manufacturing methods in the fashion markets. However, it still might have a place in our fashion industry. This technology has a longer manufacturing process, materials that create artistic designs, and costs that are exorbitant. That sounds a lot like couture. 3D printing technology has a lot of potential, and it can fit perfectly into the world of couture. If you were to take away one thing from this whole presentation, this is it. Potential does not lie in ability, it lies in purpose. Everything that 3D printing can do is awesome, but it doesn't matter what it can do, it matters what it should be doing.